Welcome to Like a Bomb, a podcast about powerful women from the past and present. Not fragile like a flower.
Fragile like a bomb.
Hello, and welcome to Like a Bomb. This is episode 17. And
Hi,
yeah, I'm Bailey.
I'm Jill, her mom. I don't know, there was a weird lull, so I was just like, okay, so that you don't hear Brody that is purring in my lap.
Yeah, there
Which,
was a weird lull. I couldn't think of words, but I think one thing important to add is, each episode we tell each other a story. We don't know what the other is talking about until we present it.
that makes me nervous.
I'm more explicitly saying how our format goes.
Okay, because I was like, should I be scared?
We know our format.
Nervous?
And that we have an email. You can, email us at likeabombpodcast@gmail.com. And we have an Instagram that I need to use more. And a TikTok.
Yeah.
That I need to make more videos for, too. I have stuff on Canva.
I wish I could say that I just lay around and do nothing with my time, but I don't, and I'm not sure what I'm doing with my time, but things are not getting done like I'd like them to get done.
Well, I got my card, the 6-month service today, which went very quickly. And then, as I sent you, I taped the numbers on my tie-dye for my soccer game since my jersey hasn't arrived.
I keep forgetting, as far as car things go, that I think there might be a tiny piece of the meteor on my rear backup camera, because ever since I ran it over, there's something on my backup cam, but I keep forgetting to check because, you only ever see what's on the backup cam. And when you're backing up in the car, and I usually leave the house when it's dark and usually get home when it's dark, so it's not really a good time. And then it's been ice and snow and all kinds of gross stuff.
Words are hard.
Yeah, they really are. So I'm kind of curious if I have meteor pieces on my back of my car.
I don't know. Is it magnetized? Because most meteorites are iron.
I don't know. Again, I keep forgetting to go check, and I'm sure I'll forget again when we get off of this, but
I don't know. I could text you right now if you wanted.
well, you can't, that's not going to do me any good. You'd have to text it in like an hour from now.
You can schedule a text. It's the great thing of technology.
You can. I cannot.
iPhones are that stupid? I thought you already could.
No, not that I can figure out, but
You hold on the send button.
Wait, what?
Send me a text. If you
on.
hold on the send.
Hold on, I gotta get my
Android,
face to acknowledge me. Hold on the send. Wait,
you can schedule it and set a time and date. So I could schedule a text from 2 weeks from now if you so desired.
The only thing it lets me do is do a send an effect. I can do bubble or screen.
It doesn't mean much. I got Android.
Yeah, I don't know. Sure. I don't see it doing any effect. Did it do an effect? I don't know.
Well, I got a text. I don't know. But so, you know how I told you the tie-dye shirt I stole from a frat house?
I do not condone stealing, just
it wasn't truthfully stolen. It was so me and my roommate, because it was sophomore year, when we were rowing, and one of the guys ended up rushing Delta Chi, and so we ran into him, and he's like, "Oh, you guys want some shirts? No one's picked up their tie-dye shirts from the Week of Welcome event." And we're like, "Yeah." It's like, "Take as much as you want." And I think I got 2 t-shirts.
That's not very many if you're going on a stealing of t-shirt spree.
Okay. But I didn't make any of these. I never actually made a tie-dye shirt because I tried to freshman week of welcome, and I'm like, oh, that's a fraternity. I'm not gonna go to that booth and make a tie-dye shirt because I am not man.
It's free tie-dyes.
I made a free tie-dye at different events, and also it says Delta Chi on it. And at the time, I'm like, I'm not associated to any frats, and then I dated a Delta Chi brother.
I don't know. I still have a tie-dye from high school that a friend, Jenny, brother, I think Brian, I don't know, it may have been Russell, I don't know. One of them made it, and if you turn it sideways, there's like this little face inside of it. That was not planned, but there's like this little face
That's
inside.
perfect.
But it has holes all in it because I've had it for years longer than you've been alive. So
Well,
that's
speaking of
okay.
at least the 90s, there's a new video game I really like that came out, and it's based in 95.
Oh, I graduated from high school then.
I
Yay!
know.
Ah.
The main character has a pin on her backpack that says 79. I went, you're the same age as my dad. This is kind of weird to think about.
And Uncle Jake, because they were born in the same year. Actually, your
True.
dad is a little bit older than Jake because Jake's birthday is in July and your dad's birthday is soon.
Yes, his birthday is very soon.
On the upside is it's easy to remember.
Yeah. Not many times can you say your parents' birthdays are a day apart.
Yeah, most times you can't. Granted, there are 2 years, which means that for one day he enjoyed that I was 3 years older than him because he was just mean.
Mean.
Meanie.
That's no surprise.
That's okay. Oh,
But it's a game I think you would really like if you played video games. It's a cool mystery one, and it goes back and forth for the main characters going over their overview of their summer of 95, while also discussing in current day in 2022 this like mystery, and like I can't tell much more without spoiling. And I also only played the first tape. I don't know how many tapes there are as like chapters.
Tapes?
It's called tapes because it's chapters. It's Lost Records, Bloom and Rage.
Okay. I don't know. Is it like Scooby-Doo? Because that's about the mystery as I can go. Granted, that was set in like the
kind
70s, 80s. I
like,
know
it's
that.
not that kind of Scooby-Doo, but it's not super like dark mystery.
Oh, well,
so
Scooby's
far.
not very dark since all of the monsters were like unmasked humans that were just trying to be greedy. I don't know. I'd like to apologize for all of the echoing you heard in the last 2 episodes. I have clicked the echo cancellation this time. Apparently last time you couldn't do it if you were in the middle of recording, so blah, blah, blah. I apologize. Hopefully this time you do not hear me echoing, because me once is bad enough. Me versus me twice. However, you may hear the cat purring that I don't know where either of them went to.
I think Brody went back into the chair.
Nope.
No.
He's not in the chair. I don't know where the little monster is. You
know it's weird and feels wrong. I went on a Netflix, and they have different categories, and it's like retro. One of the first 3 was Supernatural, and then they have Drake and Josh, and How I Met Your Mother, and Rugrats, and Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Okay, Rugrats is 90s, so that.
Yeah, but some of these are still kind of doesn't make sense, like early 2000s. Like, yes, I guess it's 20 years ago, but that doesn't feel right.
It really doesn't for retro, no. But speaking of Supernatural, since that was Brody's favorite TV show, his new favorite TV show is Expedition X. And I don't think I can watch anything else until we're out of episodes, and I may have to go back to Supernatural because I'm not sure, because he really, really likes watching his TV show. He gets very upset because right now, whatever I'm watching it on has ads here and there, and so he gets very upset when it's the ads. He will stay there and try and hang in, but if it's like more than a minute of ads, it's like, "Mommy," and he'll run away.
Oh, poor baby.
So it gets very sad. He likes his supernaturally shows. He's very much got a genre that he goes to.
Hey, it fits. He's a voidling. You got the spooky boys, the orange little pumpkin and the little shadow.
One who looks like a little demon in his little face because he looks like a little demon bat. Not that bats are demons. No shame on bats. Just saying, he looks like a demon bat if you look him straight in the little face.
Where's his little bat wings?
I know. Apparently, when I was homesick sometime recently, the teacher who does the yearbook asked everybody to send cute pictures of their pets, and then the kids were going to vote on who was the cutest and all this other stuff. Well, I was homesick. I didn't pay attention to my emails that weren't like life or death, and so then my kids are mad when they were voting. They're like, "Where are your pets? Where are your
cats?
Where are the
babies?"
I should have sent the one in with the bat wings, but I really didn't feel good.
Yeah. You
So,
are sick a lot of times, so if you don't go to school, it's extra bad.
yeah, I've only missed 2 days this year.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I missed work recently because of a snow day.
Okay, snow days don't count. Plus, I have to work
They
on
do
those
for me
days.
because I can't
Yeah.
just can't either. I don't go to work or I use and make it up the time later, or I use PTO, or I go and risk people's inability to drive when it's in the south.
Well, I sadly was very nervous Friday, Saturday, Thursday,
A day.
someday, because I don't live in my county that I work in. I get very nervous if they have school and I'm stuck in ice and snow. That's okay. So far, it's worked out, and I haven't had to risk my car more than anything because those things are expensive. Yeah,
Yes, they
ugh,
are.
I'm gonna have to buy one sooner rather than later.
Oh, Murphy's, yeah, Murphy's struggling. There's a reason I got ravioli.
That's okay. That's fine.
Hey, at least I didn't sell a car yet, so Piper has something to drive.
Yeah, she's very fortunate, and I may push her a little bit more to come live with me for a little while so she can save some money. Though I have a feeling she doesn't want to live out here.
No, you're an hour away from everything, and
There's a
everything's kind of
Target.
smaller.
There's a Target and a yeah.
Everything's kind of smaller house-wise. She's in her early 20s. Of course she wants privacy.
Well, she'd have that whole bedroom to herself. She does have to share a bathroom with me, but it would be more of me dealing with sharing a bathroom with her than her sharing a bathroom with me.
Yes.
What am I going to do with all my stuff that's in that closet? Oh boy. Guess I need to. Okay. Well, are you ready for my story?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I picked this topic. It just came to me, which
I
is
see.
weird when you hear the topic because it's like, was there voices from?
I mean, there's a ghost in your house, so I mean,
Well, oh, Lord. You should just see us sometimes. We're just scared. We're just scared.
you and the babies.
And so many lights turning, and there was something that sounded like somebody threw something down the stairs the other night. And we kind of all just sat there and said, we're going to ignore it. We're just going to ignore it. Yeah, we were
Oh
scared.
boy.
Well, I picked Joan of Arc. And I'm not
Yes.
even sure why, because this was not even on the list. So I guess divine intervention or mental illness. It could be a little of both.
Okay.
So, I'm trying to find I want to
The
make sure I
spots.
say it right. And now I can't find the pronunciation of the word that I need. Hold on, here we go. So I did look up the French words. Yep, words are hard and stuff. I did look up the French pronunciation of these words. So bear with me. But her nickname was the Maid of, we would say, Orleans. That's how we would pronounce it. But when I looked up the French pronunciation, it had Olio. I don't speak French. I don't speak France.
I took 2 years of French.
I do not speak French. I can count to 10. Took French in summer school, I think after second grade. Deux, trois, I can count, but that's about it. So her father was Jacques. And so the Arc, by the way, comes from the last name of, it's D with a apostrophe, and then Arc, which according to Google Translate in French is Doc. Not sure again.
That sounds about right.
It sounds like it makes sense. So the English version of Joan of Arc is because we see that D, we see it as of, like in Spanish, day.
Yeah.
So that's why it's Joan of Arc in the English version, and so that's what we know. But it's because it was Jock Doc, which that sounds like my family's names. And he was a tenant farmer, and mom was Isabel. And she was a devout Catholic and considered very pious, which I looked up is very religious. Um, so she was the youngest of 3 children. I only saw that once. I'm not 100% sure how many siblings, but then they mentioned her brothers had, and there was only 2 of them, unless she had sisters that just isn't mentioned in some of the articles, which I used history.com and I used Britannica because I like Britannica and history.com, and they're easy usually to read. She was born in 1412 in the village of Domremy in Champagne, in the northeast France. So, by the way, a little fun fact, in case you didn't know, if your champagne does not come from Champagne, it is not made from champagne grapes, and therefore it is not champagne. And it is sparkling wine, and you have been duped.
There are so many memes about that.
I don't know that I've even had real champagne.
I definitely have it. I also don't like wine.
I'm trying to think. I'm sure I've been to weddings that I don't know. I don't know if I've had it really champagne or not. I probably wouldn't know the difference of the grapes from Champagne versus grapes from California. I am of simple taste. Just for that side note. So she was Joan was never taught to read or write. Keep in mind that if you ever read anything that says, well, this information comes from her written letters or something, she couldn't read or write. So if it's the proof of her divination is through her own writings, she didn't write it. I do know that it does say that she dictated some of her correspondence in some of the articles that I read. So that would make sense. But she did not write it because she could not read and write. So all of this is happening during the 100 Years' War. And in case you didn't know, apparently everything I do is a history lesson. The 100 Years' War was actually, if you look into the 100 Years' War, which I kind of did, but then I said, well, nope, let's not get down that rabbit hole. Actually lasted more than 100 years, but it is commonly between 1337 and 1453 between England and France. And the main reason for this 100-year-plus war was because England wanted to take over France and rule both. Therefore, there was the lineage of who was the real rightful heir to the throne of France. But, there was some, I'm sure, other pettily little things, like they wore these kind of pants funny or something. Who knows back then? They just caused wars to cause wars. But mainly it was about the legitimate succession of the French monarchy and the King of France. And England, for a period of time, had rule of England and France, because not only were the English fighting the French, there were people from France that were in cahoots with the English, and so they were like, it was a whole thing. So Joan and her family actually had to leave their village because they were in between, like, the French people who were all about France, and then there was the French people that were like, no, England. So they kind of got scared and they moved. So at 13 is when at 1425, by the way, that was a long, long time ago, is when she started hearing the voices and seeing the visions of Saint Michael, who was the archangel, not an angle, archangel Michael, Saint Catherine of Alexandria, and Saint Margaret of Antioch. I did not look up more or anything about their who they are and why they're saints.
You'll know more if you're Catholic.
I'm not Catholic.
Catholicism is based a lot around saints.
So these were messages from God to save France and put Charles VII in rightful place as King of France. And she took a vow of chastity as part of her mission at age of 13. Well, this one was actually really impressive. At age 16 in 1428, she actually got a local court to allow her to not accept the arranged marriage from her father because she had taken a vow of chastity for this whole thing, which I was like, how do you go to the court at 16 and say, hey, my dad's trying to, like, hitch me off to this person, but I took a vow of chastity because of my beliefs and my visions. And they just go, okay. And they don't say, do we need to see a doctor?
Religion was dominant, I guess.
Or are you a witch? Like, the fact that that didn't happen too. I mean, I don't know.
I think they're like, oh, you're young enough. Okay.
Yep, sure.
Not enough heresy yet.
Yeah, I mean, wow, times they have changed. So, following the instructions from her saints, the voices, that she went to speak with Captain Robert de Borrico, to grant her permission to go and seek an audience with Charles, who is not king because she wants to make him king, those kind of things. So Captain Robert, what first sent her packing and was like, yeah, no 16-year-old's gonna come tell me they're hearing voices and they need to go do but once he saw that she had a following of followers that believed that she was the virgin prophesied to save France, which I didn't see anywhere where this was prophesied. I'm assuming this is a religious, maybe it was just in the Catholic Church, maybe it was somewhere written in clay tablets and I didn't see it. So as he realized that she had a following that truly believed in her visions and the voice of God from her saints, and also he believed she was not a witch and that she was of sound mind, in 1429, when she was 17, he granted Joan permission to continue to seek to meet with Charles VII. So she cuts her hair, she puts on men's clothes, she's given a horse and six men of arms, which men of arms are just like men that are heavily armored with their own horses and swords and stuff. And it took 11 days to reach Charles's castle in Chino. And Charles and his advisors first basically again said, no, I don't want to hear from you. Nope. And then he was like, well, we got nothing else going on. I'm going to dress up in all my other people's clothes and I'm going to hang out with all the people, around here and see if she can pick me out of the crowd. And she did immediately, which I'm going, he was like the royal heir to the throne. Maybe he bathed more and it was just easier to pick him out. I don't know. She picked him out and he was like, oh, I'm impressed. And so she explained that she wished to battle their English and to have him crowned King of France at Reims, which apparently is where coronations happen for France. And Charles was skeptical, and he had her interrogated by church leaders, then 3 weeks further questioning by the prominent theologians, which, in case you didn't know what they were professional people who professionally studied the nature and the word of God. Theology being the study of,
religion,
yes.
gods.
Yes. So, she was steadfast and stated that, I brain farted. Orleans would be how she shows her proof of her mission. Like, if she overtook that, she'd be like, yep, see, this is my mission. This is what I'm supposed to be. I'm going to fight the English. I'm going to win, and I'm going to get him coronated. Yay. The churchmen basically said, yeah, we are desperate, so why not see what she can do? That we're not making any headway with the English over there at Orleans, and let's just see if we can see what she can do. Apparently, the future king went and said, okay, well, let's see. And so, wait, what? 2, 3?
You lost your pages?
Oh, nope, I didn't lose my pages. I just lost my brain. It happens. I don't know how it got out, but that's okay. So she returned to Shiho and she was given a military household of several men. That's the exact words. I don't know what that means. She was also given a squire, and if you don't know what a squire is, watch. Oh no,
Knight's Tale.
Or what's the Disney one? Oh, what is
He's
the
thinking
Disney
Sword in the Stone.
Sword in the Stone. There you go.
A squire is basically just a knight's apprentice.
Yeah, it's generally a nobleman who attends to the knight and is
Yeah,
responsible
they
for their
take care of all
horses
the
and
stuff.
armor
It's
and
just like an apprentice that comes
yeah,
along.
who just carries your heavy stuff. Well,
Mhm.
you don't. And she was joined by her brothers John and Pierre. And a portrait of her likeness was painted with the Christ in Judgment. And I'm not sure if the painting was done in judgment, Christ was in judgment. It wasn't very clear who was judging what. Also, she was given a banner that just said Jesus. And when it came to the sword, she's like, oh no, if you go look in this specific church, you will find my sword. And they did, and it was there. And
Okay.
she got a sword.
I mean, I also got a sword and a dagger.
Maybe swords were just laying around churches. People abandoned swords in churches.
I mean,
Is that a
the
thing?
Crusades, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the Crusades were a while before this, so possibly.
I know. I guess they just kept swords just on hand.
Maybe it was a very dusty sword. Maybe it had spiders on it.
Guess
They had
some
spiders
rust.
back then.
There were spiders.
Yeah, but some places don't have things like I want to go to Scotland and Ireland because they don't have snakes normally.
I'm pretty
Or
sure there
major-
were spiders in mainland Europe.
I'm assuming, but I don't know. Things have changed since then. Okay. So when it comes to Olio or Orleans in our world, she first arrived and was told she needed to wait till more backup could arrive. And this was April 29th. And she was like, okay, I guess I'll lay around here and play cards. May 4th, she sprang from her rest and said, going to attack the English. And she arrived to the battle and there was already a battle going on, and her presence boosted the French, and they took control of the fort. And it worked. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So May 6th, she took to another fort, and May 7th, another fort, and the English retreated. I don't know.
Okay. So
No,
she took the city.
Yeah. Well, she's taken the city. May 9th, met with Charles and urged him to head to Reims to be crowned king. First, they needed to defeat the English strongholds along the route, which they did, building a reputation of invincibility. I'm not sure about the invincibility there.
Constantly just slaying the English and going, ha ha, you haven't killed me yet.
Yes, I'm not sure about invincibility. These were, no
The
small
1400s.
feat. So, the sword probably weighs more than I did at that age. So, very true. June 29th, she set out with Charles to Reims, and July 16th, they reached Reims. July 17th, the coronation, where she was beside him. Joan felt her mission was complete without having taken Paris, because they still haven't taken, Paris, Paris, France, come on. Back for Charles and France, which she did feel was essential to their cause. However, she did feel like her mission was only to take Olio and to get him coronated as the official king. So September 7th, they did attack Paris. By September 9th, they retreated by order of Charles. So they ducked tail and said, ooh, people got stronghold here. We're just going to take a break. She stayed with the King Charles by his side for a little while, and then by December, of 1429, Charles actually issued a letter granting Joan, her parents, and her brothers noble status. Didn't seem to help much later. By late March of 1490 or early April, she left the king with her brother Pierre, her squire, and a small troop to protect townsfolk from the Duke of Burgundy, which it was like the head guy who was French, but for the English people. And May 29th, she surrendered with Pierre and her squire to the Duke of Burgundy. Charles, trying to work out a truce with the Duke of Burgundy, didn't really help save Joan. So Joan tried to escape, jumped through the top of a tower to the moat, falling unconscious. She didn't really have any major damage, but she jumped from the top of a tower into a moat.
Probably very shallow moat.
Yes, and ouch, and oh, were there...
And if you're wearing armor, which she may have already been stripped of, is going to add more weight.
Probably stripped of that, but still. She was Oh, the bishop for the University of Paris, so they were on the English fighting side, paid 10,000 francs for Joan because the Duke of Burgundy didn't want her anymore, and Charles wasn't fighting for her, so he said, I'll give you 10,000 francs, which, again, I don't know what that means.
That's
And,
still a lot of money, is all
I
I
mean,
know.
10,000
10,000 of
francs back
anything.
then or now, probably still a lot of money. And so she was tried as a heretic, and that means holding opinions different than the church, perceived to be a force of evil, and was charged with wearing men's clothes.
Oh no.
Yes, these are
I'm
the
wearing men's sweatpants.
So, I'm pretty sure my hoodie is probably a men's hoodie. I don't know. Ooh, my socks are men's socks because I really like them. They were nice. There's my pajama socks. So her trial started January 13th, 1431. She's only 19 years old. Remember when she set off on this journey, she was 16. She started hearing voices at 13. So she spent a lot of her life, that was very short, doing things for the good of France, basically. She refused to say things that she shared with Charles, like any of her visions and voices, things that she shared with him. Because he did apparently say he believed her because of something she knew that she shouldn't know. Granted, he also didn't come to her aid, and he's now the king because of her, so poo on you.
Mhm.
She said she was morally free to attempt to escape, so, like, try and hold me. Go for it. Guards remained in her cell with her as she was chained to a wooden block, which I guess think back to what you've seen on TV. February 21st to March 24th, she was interrogated a minimum of 12 times. She originally started with 70 charges and they downed them to 12. Again, one of those charges still was wearing men's clothes. She got sick for a while, and they were like, oh, we can get her now. She asked to she just wanted a confession. She wanted Holy Communion. She wanted to be buried in consecrated ground. And they said, nope, that's not happening. Now we're going to threaten you with torture. And she's like, okay, you can torture me, but I'm not going to change what I'm saying. And they said, well, yeah, she's probably telling the truth. It's not really worth it. I don't know. She may have been tortured anyways, because this is just like the official word. She was then turned over from the church to the power of the state, and the state because the state can execute, but because the church is morally, obligated not to kill people. She was told to wear a woman's clothes. She did. And then, of course, of her own free will, she changed back within 2 to 3 days because, well, they're more comfy. I mean, corsets and stuff. Ew. She was able to give a confession and to receive communion, even though she was considered a heretic, so against the church. She was allowed to do these very religious things, and it was her last sermon. Then they led her to the stake and lit the fire because she was burned at the stake. She wasn't decapitated. That's not what they call it.
With the guillotine? Is that
Yes.
what you're thinking about?
Yes, beheaded.
Yeah.
She wasn't beheaded. She wasn't hung. She was burned like she was a witch. So to the very last minute, she still maintained the voice and the visions were from God. And the witnesses, when questioned later, when this was done later, they believe she died as a faithful Christian. So that says a lot. Like, then who really tried her? Because if the basic people of wherever she, no matter who they asked, French or English allies, they said she died a true Christian. Makes you wonder where they were getting this from.
But she was a woman stepping out of her place, and they didn't like that.
Well, there is that. So, in 1450, Charles VII ordered an inquiry into the trial. This is multiple years later. And apparently, he really didn't dive that far into it. In 1452, 2 years later, a cardinal did a more thorough investigation. In 1456 to 57, a petition from Joan's family, the Pope revoked and annulled her actual 1431 sentence. In 1920, May 16th, 1920, Joan was canonized. And if you don't know what canonized, it means officially considered a saint. And it was done more for her heroic fortitude than for her miraculous visions. Like, it wasn't because they were like, oh, she saw the vision in the Word of God. It was more for the fact that at the time she was a woman who started making all of these like campaigns and things when she was 16, which granted back then 16-year-olds were getting married, and she had to go to court not to get married and having babies and all that other stuff. So they were grown. But so she was officially canonized in 1920. She was officially declared a saint, and her feast day, which that is definitely not an American thing,
That's a Catholic thing through and through.
Is May 30th. She's considered the patron saint of France and soldiers. In 1920, on June 24th, 1920, the French Parliament decreed a yearly festival in her honor, and it is the second Sunday in May. She is considered one of history's greatest martyrs. And if you don't know what a martyr is, it is somebody who is killed based on their belief, because of their beliefs. Like, they don't stop voicing their beliefs up to their death. Like, not.
It also helps Gavin. It's used a lot, at least in texts of like books of like, oh, they're going to become a martyr, and help galvanize the rest of the beliefs that they're standing on and their followers.
And it's generally only used for women, generally.
No, it's not using just for women.
It's usually more used for women. It's usually used for more women for some reason. If you go back and look at history, I don't know why.
I don't know. I remember at least some men when we were talking Canterbury Tales in senior year English.
She was considered a heroic military leader that transcended gender and religious roles to save France from English rule. So, yay France! Vive la France!
Yeah.
So, Joan of Arc, I really don't know why she's came into my head. Again, maybe divine intervention, or just maybe the cats came and told me something.
New whisper to you.
Maybe when they're waking me up 1,000 times a night, they were like, Joan of Arc. Or maybe I was like, burn them. And then that's where it came from.
I see.
Who knows? Because they don't shut their mouths.
They're needy boys.
Oh, so needy.
Well, mine did not come from divine intervention or cats. My person came from talking with a friend at work about some classic books and stuff. So I'm going to talk about Harper Lee, who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. And she has a second book. What is the name of the second book? Go Set a Watchman, which came out in 2015. And I think it was 2015 that you and I almost went to the library to meet her.
Yeah, it'd been really cool if we could have done that, but
I can't remember why we couldn't.
I think because of the dates of the slots that we could have signed up for were one of the 10,000 things that everybody was involved in. But
mostly
unless Jake's changed it, that used to be like Jake's favorite book.
I don't know.
By the way, Jake is her uncle, my brother.
Yes, my oldest uncle. Anyways, I'm going to talk about Harper Lee. I'll touch a little bit about her books. So, she was born on April 28th, 1926, in Monroeville, Alabama. The youngest of 4 children, she grew up as a tomboy in a small town. Her father was a lawyer, a member of the Alabama state legislature, and also owned part of the local newspaper. For most of Lee's life, her mother suffered from mental illness, rarely leaving the house. It is believed she may have had bipolar disorder. And so in her education in high school, Lee developed an interest in English literature. After graduating in 1944, she attended the all-female Huntington College in Montgomery. Lee stood apart from the other students. She couldn't have cared less about fashion, makeup, or dating. Instead, she focused on her studies and writing. She was a member of the Literary Honor Society and the Glee Club. Transferring to the University of Alabama at Tuscaloosa, or just UA, Lee was known for being a loner and an individualist. She did make a great attempt at a social life there, joining a sorority for a while. Pursuing her interest in writing, she contributed to the school's newspaper and its humor magazine, The Rammer Jammer, eventually becoming the publication's editor. In her junior year, Lee was accepted into the university's law school, which allowed students to work on law degrees while still undergrads. The demands of her law studies forced her to leave her post as Rammer Jammer editor. After her first year in the program, Lee began expressing to her family that writing, not the law, was her true calling. So then she went to the University of Oxford in England that summer as an exchange student. Returning to her law studies that fall, she dropped out that first semester and soon moved north to follow her dreams to become a writer. So now it's 1949, and she is 23, just arrived to New York City, struggling for several years working as a ticket agent at Eastern Airlines and for the British Overseas Air Corps. While in New York, she befriended a Broadway composer and lyricist Michael Martin Brown and his wife Joy. In 1956, the Browns gave Lee an impressive Christmas gift to support her for a year so that she could write full-time.
Whoa.
So she quit her job and devoted herself to her craft.
Whoa.
And a full year to just do your thing. Pretty nice. That's
Wow.
very, very impressive.
Yeah.
The Browns also helped her find an agent, Maurice Crane. He in turn was able to get publisher J.B. Lippincott Company interested in her work, working with editor Tay Hohoff. Lee worked on a manuscript set in a small Alabama town, which eventually became her novel To Kill a Mockingbird. And so some things to note, there's a whole bit that she had a close friendship with Truman Capote. They were that was her closest childhood friend, and he's the author of
In
where's
Cold
the
Blood.
book?
In Cold Blood.
In Cold Blood.
And if you have not read that, yep.
Well,
It's considered the first
yes.
written true crime that was written as in it was in the style of fiction. He did take a lot more fictional.
Yes, he did. It was based off of true crime in the 50s. Harper Lee helped a lot with the notes as they collaborated with this book, but he never acknowledged her contributions, even though dedicated it to her and his partner, Jack Dunphy. But despite this, I mean, Lee was obviously very angry and hurt by this. They still remained friends for the rest of his life. And so, as we know, Harper Lee, as I mentioned, wrote 2 books, To Kill a Mockingbird and Go Set a Watchman. In July 1960, To Kill a Mockingbird was published and picked up by the Book of the Month Club and the Literary Guild. A condensed version of the story appeared in Writer's Digest magazine. The following year, the novel won the prestigious Pulitzer Prize and several other literary awards. A classic of American literature, To Kill a Mockingbird has been translated into more than 40 languages and more than 1 million copies sold each year.
Ew, wow.
I mean,
wow.
You also have to read it in most English classes here in the US, so that helps a lot.
You don't anymore.
I mean, I did. I don't know if Piper did.
She may have. I don't know. I think Jake and I read it on our own. He may have read it because of school. I don't know. I don't think I had to read it.
I read it my freshman year of high school.
I don't think it's part of the main curriculum anymore. They keep changing things.
I know they've added Hunger Games to the main curriculum.
They added it in middle school. They added Hunger Games in middle school.
Okay. Well, yeah. I started reading it and got obsessed with it in middle school. But anyways, her second book, Go Set a Watchman, came out in July 2015, and the story was essentially a first draft of To Kill a Mockingbird and followed the later lives of the novel's characters. So Go Set a Watchman was submitted to a publisher in 1957. When the book wasn't accepted, Lee's editor asked her to revise the story and make her main character Scout a child. And so Harper Lee worked on the story for 2 years and eventually became To Kill a Mockingbird. And Ghost at a Watchman was thought to be lost until it was discovered by her lawyer, Tanya Carter, in a safe deposit box. In February 2015, it was announced that HarperCollins would publish the manuscript on July 14th, 2015. And there's a bit of, well, there's also the shocking betrayal and controversy of this other book, because it's Scout and her dad later on. But there's a lot of questions of whether or not Harper Lee actually signed off or was coerced into having this book published because she was so old.
Yep. And I think that was part of the question of when she was doing, like, because it was like tea with Harper Lee at the library that,
Yep.
and we had thing, because I
And
remember
that was in 2015.
Yep. And I remember texting Jake and being like, you can have tea with Harper Lee. Like, what? And I know that there was a lot of questions then that, is this something she should really be doing? Because she's, I'm not saying older people can't go and do these things, but it was a question of, after all these years, is this something
Yeah.
she should be doing? That was the difference.
Yeah. So she's published 2 books, very well known for her first, and that first book, To Kill a Mockingbird, was made into a movie in 1962.
Gregory Peck. Gregory Peck.
Yes, Gregory Peck won an award as Best Actor for his portrayal of Finch.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie itself earned 8 Academy Award nominations with 3 awards, which one of them, like I said, was for Gregory Peck. And so, later years of Harper Lee, in the mid-1960s, she was reportedly working on another novel, but it was never published. In 1966, Lee had an operation on her hand to repair the damage done by a bad burn. She also accepted a post on the National Council of the Arts at the request of President Lyndon B. Johnson. During the 1970s and 80s, Lee largely retreated from public life. She generally lived a quiet, private life, splitting her time between New York City and her hometown of Monroeville. She lived with her older sister Alice Lee, a loyal, wow, words are hard, a lawyer who the author called Atticus in a skirt. Alice was a close confidant who often took care of Harper's legal and financial affairs. Harper Lee was active in her church and community and became famous for avoiding the spotlight of her celebrity. She would often use the wealth she had accumulated from her success to make anonymous, philanthropic, that's the right word, yes, donations to various charitable causes. In November 2007, President George W. Bush presented Lee with the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her outstanding contribution to America's literary tradition. And her sister Alice once said about Harper, "Books are the things she cares about." With the assistance of a magnifying glass necessary due to her macular degeneration, Lee was able to keep reading despite her ailments. But unfortunately, in February 2016, at age 89, Harper Lee passed away. Her nephew, Hank Connor, said the author died in her sleep. And that is, Harper Lee in a nutshell. There are a few notable quotes that could be important, such as, I think there's just one kind of folks, and everybody's gotta learn. Nobody's born knowing. I think those 2 out of these few listed on biography.com are very specific ones to highlight.
Yeah, considering she had one book until pretty recently, it was a very significant book. And is there an Ewok back there on the dresser?
No, that's a raven and a pumpkin.
Oh, okay. Because I keep looking back there going, is that an Ewok?
I'll bring it to you closer because I don't want to get up while we're recording.
No, you're fine.
Look at my little raven.
It looks like an Ewok. Sorry.
No.
Half the people out there are probably like, what's an Ewok? It's the only Star Wars movie I watched when I was growing up.
Okay. I think enough people know because most of our listeners are your age.
Well, also, like, I think they've come back. I saw this, like, adorable Ewok Christmas sweater. It, like, I don't know where it was. One of those places I can't afford box lunch, Hot Topic. I don't know. But I was like, oh, so cute. But so I think they're more on the mainstream.
Yeah, they're more of the more mainstream, I guess, alien races in Star
Ewoks.
Wars.
I mean, Ewoks.
Yeah,
They're cute. They're little. They're bears-ish like things.
they're bear-like,
They're little bear-like.
teddy bear-like more.
It is the only Star Wars movie. Sorry to destroy my generation, but I was not a good representative for that. I did not watch the Star Wars movies because I was born that year and my parents didn't take me to watch Star Wars. My
You
mom,
didn't see the Star Wars movies until I was in high school, and I had gotten the box set of all 6 movies and Blu-ray and DVD from my high school boyfriend.
I watched episode 1 when I was like pregnant with you, and I was so glad that I kept having to go to the bathroom.
Well, you didn't watch the original 3. How about that?
No.
Until
No. Your dad dragged me to that, and I was like,
I know. I remember the only Star Wars I had watched until high school was episodes 1, 2, and 3. It's like the movies that came out in the early 2000s.
from when you were born and later.
Yeah, because that's what my dad had, and he really liked them.
They sat not in the theater, in the bathroom, more or less.
Well, I mostly remembered episode 3. That was the most prominent one that was played the most, of course, somehow.
Yeah, I remember watching them with you. You kept waking me up. Pay attention! Like,
That was Piper pushing you.
she was also hitting me to watch Bob's Burgers, I think.
I didn't watch that much Bob's Burgers.
I think that was also that. I don't know. I not a good representative of my generation when it comes to Star Wars. But again, guys, we were born when they came. Some of us were born when the movies came out. We were little. We were busy learning how to eat and stand and not poop in our pants. Like the fact that everybody's like, "Oh, but you should have watched." No, I was born that year. No, I was busy. Plus, it's not my parents' thing. It wasn't their thing, so I didn't watch it.
No. You're a product of your surroundings in many cases, and your parents were your prime for the first several years.
Yep. So I watched a bunch of James Bond movies with my mom, and my dad didn't really care what we watched. So scarred for life because of that.
It's okay. There's many a times that I've watched horror movies and other things I shouldn't have at way too young of age.
Yeah, more of that was on other people than me. I did.
Same.
I did.
A certain other person who fell asleep on the couch.
Yeah, well, your sister ended up climbing on the cabinets with knives too, so.
What?
Yeah, I came by one time when y'all were visiting and he was asleep or in a coma, who knows. I think his sugar was probably really off. But regardless of, he knows how to maintain his health. And she was on the kitchen counter. There were knives everywhere. Yep. Because she was a climber.
Yes, Piper very much was. Still kind of is.
Yeah, she still kind of is. So, yeah. And she was tiny, so. Yeah. It's kind of traumatic. For me.
For you, yes. Not us.
No, y'all didn't care, because y'all didn't know.
I mean, there was a traumatic experience of I was 7, Piper was 4, and him violently seizing from the low blood sugar.
Yes, there's a lot of reasons why y'all shouldn't be left in his. Wasn't really good at taking care of things.
And the night we had a whole loaf of butter of just buttered bread for our dinner.
Oh, stop telling me things.
You were there. You remember that.
I don't remember that.
Okay. You, in theory, have the memory somewhere. and
It's
being really mad at
repressed.
him, finding out that was our dinner.
Okay, I'm pressing that one, luckily, because there's lots of other reasons I'm mad at him. Let's not. So,
Yes,
on the
I know.
happy note, they had a wonderful childhood and learned lots of things at early ages.
Yeah!
Yeah.
We're not
So
getting into the rest.
no, they got to
Piper
learn
learned how to play
things.
with knives.
Yes,
I
she
learned other
did.
things.
Yes, she did. That kid.
I had other things on the counter.
Yeah, y'all are still alive and as healthy as can be, considering
Yeah!
you're my children. You're as healthy as you can be. You grew to adulthood, so that's good.
You have two somewhat healthy adults.
Yes.
Genetics aside, we would be healthy.
Yeah, genetics. I don't even know where they come from other than me, because there's no genetic link from me to anybody before me.
You're the anomaly.
Maybe I'm just really
Mutations occur.
adopted. Maybe I really am adopted. Maybe I was switched at birth.
So I need to go do some genetic testing with Grammy now?
I need to do the genetic testing, but every time, you can't eat and drink for like 30 minutes, and I forget every time I go to do it that I've eaten or drank something.
Set a timer.
Yeah, I'm forgetful. Oh, I need to go look and see if the meteorite's in the back of my car.
Yeah!
With that being said, go do something extraordinary.